welcome to Silver Linings Talk Show, and this is our November episode, and I am so excited because we are going to focus on veterans. My husband is a veteran. I was an active military wife. This hits home and hits my heart, and we have so much wisdom and wonderful things to share with our guest today, Mr. Olando Petgrave.
Well, that's what we need to do. I think we're going to hand it to him and say, Olando, we'd love to hear who you are and what you're doing now, and then we're going to kind of roll into the episode.
Well, thanks for having me. Happy to be here. My name is Olando Petgrave. I'm a United States Marine Corps veteran and an entrepreneur.
Excellent.
Well, how did you get here? I mean, that's a loaded question, meaning, you know, you're a veteran, but what got you to the military? I'd love to hear your story.
Yeah.
So what got me to the military, I'm going to back up from what got me to the United States. So I was born in Jamaica. I moved to the state when I was 17. Because in Jamaica, with immigration, once you're close to 18, they don't like to give out immigration status because of past history and stuff that happened with folks that come before me. So we went to the immigration. They only gave me 1 year. So it was a 1-year visiting visa. By the time my parents put together the income to get the ticket and everything, I only have 6 months remaining on the visa. So when I came to New York and cleared through immigration, I had 6 months on a visiting visa and also only got 2 weeks to stay in the country. But I knew what I was leaving behind. I knew that I wasn't going back. So my whole goal coming in was just to get clearance and make it outside the airport. And
Well, what were you leaving behind?
I was leaving behind a very, very difficult life in a way of, when I say difficult, in Jamaica is two status. It's either the higher end or the poor. It's no middle class. And I was fortunate and lucky to be in the poor. But the reason why I say fortunate and lucky, because that's what gave me the character of what I have now. So what I was leaving behind wasn't much. I used to walk to school 3 miles each way, no shoes. I remember I only have 1 pair of shoes, and that pair of shoes was only for special occasion. It had to be a funeral, going to church, or a wedding. So we used to have to wake up first thing in the morning, because we didn't have running water, we didn't have any electricity. So and the water source was 1.5 miles away. So as long as I could remember as a kid, we used to do that 2 times in the morning before school and 2 times after school. So that's what I was leaving behind, and I didn't want to continue to live like that. So getting the opportunity to get that visiting visa, I knew I was going to take full advantage of it. I didn't know what that was going to be entail, or what's the route I'm going to take to make sure that I take full advantage, but I knew I was going to take full advantage.
So when you decided that I want to come to the U.S., was the military in your mind, or was it, I'm going to figure it out once I get there?
The military was always in the background, meaning that ever since I was a kid and I watch a movie or watch anything with uniform and military, I always wanted to do that. So now my older brother was actually in the military in Jamaica at the time when I was leaving. He passed away in 2010, but I'll get into that a little bit more later. But he was, and him and I was like twin, even though it wasn't twin. Everything that he does, emulate him. So we used to do everything together. So him being in the military, and also me always want to be in the military. The military was always a thing, but you got to remember, coming to the state, I only have a visited visa for 2 weeks. So joining the military in the state was nowhere near in the radar in the first couple of years.
So how did you navigate this?
So I navigate getting into the military, or going into the military, because I came when I was 17, which means I have 1 more year in high school. Finished high school.
Okay.
Actually did good in high school, good enough to was qualified or made it to go to UConn to run track and field, believe it or not.
Wonderful.
So this all fall apart when I was approved and qualified to go to UConn, and then I couldn't go because immigration status. I only had a visiting visa, remember. So when you have a visiting visa, after 2 weeks, technically, I'm in the country illegal
Okay.
because I didn't have a permanent stay or nothing like that. So
Okay.
that's when I started looking at different avenue, how I'm going to fix, one, my immigration status, and now that I know that I'm not going to be able to go to college at that particular time, what's my next best option? So at the time, I was living in Bridgeport, and I went to the military recruiting center. At the time in Bridgeport, they have all 5 branches there.
Okay.
So actually, the Marines was the last office that I went to. I went to the Air Force. The Air Force was so strict on the requirement that if you didn't have your green card and you didn't have everything lined up, they didn't want to take you because they had strict recruiting guideline at that time.
Okay.
Went to the Army. The Army was willing to help me out, but it was something else. I said, just check out, go to the Marines first before you commit to the Army. And then I went to the Marine office, and before I walked in, there was one recruiter there at the time. He screamed at me, he yelled at me, and it was a pull-up bar in the office, and he said, excuse me, he said, I will only talk to you if you could do 10 pull-ups right now. If you can't do,
Wow.
if you can't do 10 pull-ups, get the heck out of my office. Like loud voice.
I bet you love that.
At the time, I got excited. I got excited because that's what I wanted. I needed the challenge because at the time I was smiling in my head because that was a great opportunity to showcase that. Because at the time I was in great shape. I always was in shape. So I actually ended up doing 18 pull-ups, and then we sat down. He went over everything, and I tell him my story and the immigration status, and then they took it from there. He actually wrote a letter to the immigration office, and within, I want to say 3 weeks or so, we got response, and the immigration process was started from there.
Wow.
So they wanted you
amazing.
because you're pull-ups.
Yes,
I
yes.
love that.
They did.
I love that so much. So then how long did it take for you to like get into the Marine Corps from there?
So from there, it was the process. Once we get approval with immigration, then everything was expedited from there because I wanted to join so bad. So I was an easy recruit for them. He didn't have to sell me anything. I just asked him, when could I sign and when could I leave? Because I was living in Bridgeport.
Yep.
And at the time, it was very, the longer you hang around not doing something productive, the more likely you might end up on the wrong street at the wrong time or at the wrong location. So in my mind, I know my immigration status and I know where I'm coming from and I don't want to screw it up. So I told the recruiter, as soon as you have a ship date. So that took around 3 months from start to finish because I had to go to the MEF. I had to remember, once you decide you're going to sign up, you still got to get medical. You got to go to medical. They got to clear you before you could join. And I went to medical. I answered no on everything. I never had a headache in my life. Nothing, because I wanted to join so bad. So I didn't make their life any easier. If they're gonna not accept me, they're gonna have to dig and find if there was something wrong with me.
Yes.
So we went through everything clear, and then I was qualified to go. And throughout this whole process, I didn't tell anyone. The reason why I didn't tell anyone, this was the height of 9/11, so I know I was going to war. And if I tell somebody, I know someone might say something to try to convince me not to join the military.
Okay.
So I didn't tell my parents, I didn't tell anyone until after I signed the contract and swore in, meaning that's after I cannot back out.
Right.
That's when I tell my parents.
Oh, I love that. So we need to see a photo of you, I think, don't we?
Yeah.
Okay, so this photo, that's actually was taken through our pre-deployment training. So this is down in North Carolina, Camp Lejeune. This is pre-deployment. We are getting ready to go to Afghanistan. So this is training pre-deployment, going to Afghanistan.
And how long did you spend there?
In this training?
Yes.
The training is 3 months.
And then you went.
And then I went to Afghanistan for 9 months.
9 months.
So I was in Afghanistan for 9 months.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must have been intense.
Yeah.
And that photo, that's in 29 Palms. So that's the closest you could get to replicate in the landscape in Afghanistan or Iraq. So that's where we trained. So it's very hot there. This is like in the middle of summer. This is actually June, July, 100-degree middle of summer. But that's the word. It's like climatized training.
Okay.
So you kind of get adjusted to the heat,
Yes.
carrying your gear, running around and doing all different training. Believe it or not, so those two gentlemen next to me on the right of me, that's Fonte, and the next one is Sergeant Casey. They both were police officer. Actually, Casey, and we'll get into that later on, but Casey is the one that got me on board with the CT honor flight. He's actually a sergeant in the police department in Guilford, and Fonte is a state trooper.
I love,
Wow.
I love that.
Yeah,
That's
so we
awesome.
all three of us in this picture. We was from Connecticut.
That's
why.
amazing.
And that's the picture. That's my platoon in Afghanistan. That picture was taken in Afghanistan, on the main base. That's our secure area, meaning that that's the area where you could let your guard down a little bit before you go out and on different mission. So this picture is very unique because we was one of the best platoon in the entire company, and we was the only platoon that was led by a female.
Wow.
So if you look close to me, you could see the blur in the back. That's me. If you look close to me, you see that's Lieutenant Pena.
Oh.
She's our lieutenant. She's a colonel now, I believe, but she was one of the best. And in the beginning, because she was a female, she was underestimated. Turned out to be anyway. We was one of the best platoon in Afghanistan.
Now,
Yeah.
I just have to say that that's pretty remarkable.
I love the way you speak about this with such pride.
Yes.
Yes, so this was absolute. Even now I'm talking about it, you can't
Yes.
see, but I have goosebumps because that's so much pride. It was such an honor, such a pride to serve in the military in the U.S. Because the reason why there was so much pride, even though I didn't grow up here, but it was so much opportunity to be have here, and just having that recruiter go above and beyond to help me out,
Right.
to get immigration, write a letter to them. So I really appreciate that. So that was prideful.
Yes.
But that's amazing for you to feel so much, but you gave so much of yourself too in this
return.
process.
In return,
Like that's
absolutely.
you know.
Yes. So the giving started before you get to boot camp. So that started the night before you get to boot camp, because they do everything at night. Everything's stealthy. So to get to boot camp, I started like 4 a.m. in the morning, but they set it up to make sure that when you get to Parris Island, because that's where I trained. So in the Marine Corps, you got 2 training depots, one in San Diego and one in Parris Island. Parris Island that's the original one. So if you met a Marine or 2 Marine and one went to boot camp in San Diego and one go Parris Island, Parris Island always going to think that he's better. It's a competition.
Remember that one.
Because they call the San Diego Marines the Hollywood Marines. Because they in San Diego, we in the swamp in the backwoods in South Carolina.
Okay.
But so to get so they make sure we get there like 2 a.m. in the morning, so you don't know where you're going, because it's a one-way road to the Highland. And the reason why it does that, the Marine Corps training is so hard. Recruits try to escape, so they do it so you can't even tell your parents the direction, so no one could come pick you up, or you can't.
Oh, wow.
So that's why they do that. So, but by them doing that now, you gotta think about it. We start off that journey 4 a.m. in the morning, and you're not going to sleep again probably for the next 38 hours.
Right.
Because once you get to boot camp, you go through a whole onboarding process. And but back to your question, that's where the giving started. Because you started from that point on, they started mess with you mentally
Yes.
Right.
to break you down.
Right.
And what I mean by that, they're trying to get rid of Orlando and then put back in that space Marine Corps Olando, not just civilian Olando. So they try, but that process to clear how you think, how you do stuff, or your response to command, to get from that point to become a Marine. So I tell people all the time, I would rather go back to Afghanistan 2 or 3 more times than to go back through the Marine Corps training one time.
Wow.
Wow.
So that's so bad and intense it is.
And you, I think, were part of your mission was to support special operations.
That's part of it. So our whole platoon was supply platoon.
Okay.
So what we do is we have a main base that have all the equipment, everything that your team could need in a country to do the mission. So we supply, they call it FOBs. So it's different smaller outlet of bases around the entire in Afghanistan. So our mission specifically was to resupply all those different FOBs.
Okay.
Most of them were special forces. And so by us doing that, the bad guys know that if they could cut us off,
Right.
and not get supplies. If you don't have supplies, if you don't have food, beans, there's the 3 B's, beans, bullets, and Band-Aids. If you don't have none of those, eventually you're not going to survive.
Right.
So they'll shift their focus from, for example, if you set up shop here, they'll shift their focus from you and the focus on us to cut us off to get to you.
Right.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
So
Yeah, it
that's
does.
why our platoon, every mission was something getting blown up, something getting shot at. And so that's our mission. So our mission was always dangerous. Every time you leave the base, you know it's going to be something going to happen.
Right.
So
So what I'm hearing too from you is that the military meant so much to you, starting from the very beginning with immigration and then citizenship, and then everything that you learned as you were certainly working and training, and I'm sure the brother and sisterhood of those that you worked with.
yes, so the military, it teaches you a lot about leadership. It forces you, actually you have no choice. It forces you to work with your peer and to work with groups and to go up in front of someone and have a conversation. So it teaches you the basic fundamental of leadership. So that's the foundation of everything that I do now.
Yes.
Because I translate everything I learned from the military and apply it to everything I do.
I love that so much because you didn't just, all right, so you say when you were training, they took Olando and made Olando the Marine.
Yes.
Okay. So then, here you are, Olando the Marine, and you're having to insert yourself back into society, but you're not getting rid of anything that you've learned or experienced.
Yeah.
So to take all of that, I know there's, obviously you cannot have no anger or no trauma from what you experienced, but coming back and inserting yourself into life.
Yeah.
What was that like?
How did you?
So that was very difficult.
I'm
Because
sure.
when you're in the military and you're in the Marines or you're in a war zone or you're not in a war zone, everything is 100 miles per hour, and that's how you function. And if you're upset or you're angry, it actually helps what you're doing, especially in a war zone. The more angry and upset you are, it keeps you alive.
It's kind of your fuel.
Because it kind of your fuel, and it keeps you aware, and it keep you. But when you go from doing that to 2 days later, you're not doing that anymore, and you're not in a war zone anymore, and now you're home, and everyone else is. You don't have your peers there or your buddy. It's a very hard adjustment because now the anger is still there, everything else is still there, and now you're trying to adjust it. So that was very difficult for me. Actually, I always tell the story that I got lucky by accident because during one of those moments when I was really angry and upset, I went for a run, and whatever the run did, this was 2011, and I'm still running. So whatever that was such a great, but dealing with it, it's not easy. You need to talk to someone. And fortunate for me, I did went to the VA. I did reach out and talk to someone, and they give me different scoping skills how to deal with it. But it's a very, and I think a lot of veterans struggle with that, and that's a big thing for a lot of veterans, because with us, especially guys, we think we're strong and macho. So me telling you that I'm struggling, it's almost like, in my mind, you're gonna look at me as I'm weak, or I could just shake it off or deal with it. So, and I think a lot of veterans end up either hurting themselves or end up on drugs and lose their family and be on the street, is because they're dealing with the same thing that I'm dealing with, but they're not telling anyone, or they didn't ask for help, or the help didn't find them.
Right. True, and like you said, you turned to the resources that were available to you.
Which was running.
See? So that was actually, this is recent. This was this is 2020, this was 2023 New York City Marathon.
You ran a marathon.
I ran the marathon, and I
That's
did
awesome.
the marathon. Not only did I ran the marathon, but it was for a great cause. I ended up raising $5,680 for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation.
Fantastic.
So that was great.
That's so rewarding, and so you find your biggest coping skill mechanism is really just getting out and running.
Yes, and so that's one of the positive coping skill. Now, one of the coping skill that is not so positive is that I have to stay busy. What I mean by that, I work and work and work.
I do know that about you.
Yes.
I do know that about you.
Yes.
You did start your own business. Tell us a little bit about your story transitioning from the bridge and how you got back into the world and got into
Olando the
entrepreneurship.
Marine to
Yeah.
now transitioning to Olando the entrepreneur.
Yes, so that was, I think that was always there ever since I was a kid. Because I think even as a kid, just to survive, because most of the time we have little means, just to survive was always negotiating something or trading something just to get something to eat. Okay. So that was there as long as I can remember. Now, fast forward to later on in life, after I got out of the military, like I said, actually my first business was locksmithing, because I learned that trade doing locksmith. I reach out to a connection from my wife, and she knows somebody that did a locksmith, and she said, oh, that's a good trade. So I was doing that, but that wasn't enough to take care of the bills, and after getting out of the military, they lose their insurance benefit. So I needed to get a stable job to get benefits for them, and that's how I ended up with the bridge. And the bridge come about was because at the time in Bridgeport, it was a liaison in the working department that's helped veterans specific. So I went and talked to him, and he said, oh, this is union job available. And that union job turned out to be the painters union.
Oh.
So I was a part of the painters union for 7 years. But throughout that whole time, from the beginning, I knew at some point I want to do my own business.
Yes.
At the time, I thought it was going to go back to be the locksmith.
Okay.
But I was always hoping, to the point that and my friends from the bridge will tell you, the entire time working at the bridge, I always refer to it as my side job, and my business locksmith as my main job. So always, I never take that job as my regular job. I always refer to a side job, so just to remind me that I'm not here permanently. So what I did was, once I get that mindset, I went to school for everything they offer, because the union was free. The only requirement is seniority, and you got to clear a drug test. Now, I skipped the line because most of my seniority that was there, they couldn't clear the drug test. I could clear the drug test, I skipped the line. So I went to school, learned everything, and then COVID came, and that's what helped me out, actually. So COVID was a positive for me.
Okay.
Because that gave me the window to take the chance. Because it was COVID, everybody was home, work was all chaotic.
Right.
You could, so
Right.
I took the chance during COVID with some assistance from reading in books. And that's so I started Orlando and Son. So I started Orlando and Son in December of 2021.
Okay.
Which is amazing because you're always doing.
Yes.
You don't just do that. You join pretty much everything, I think. Every every
Yes.
philanthropic organization, every fraternal organization, I think you're plugged into, because I think you just enjoy giving back to your community.
And there's one in particular that we wanted to highlight today because you sent some really wonderful photos of, and that is the honor flight.
Yes. So the honor flight was this one. I get so excited for this one.
I can see it.
So the honor
love that
flight
so
was,
much.
we're actually going again. So our next flight is on the 28th of this month.
Okay.
So the honor flight, so the gentleman that was in the picture you showed, Sergeant Casey, his wife is the third, she's on the board of this organization. So we went to a wedding maybe like a year ago, less than a year ago, and because I always saw her in the picture and I always wondered, what is that? That looks so fascinating. I would love to be part of that. And then I saw it, as soon as I saw them, I bring it up. I say, hey, listen, if you guys, I don't know what it is. All I know is I want to be a part of it. If you guys ever have any space or room for a volunteer, if you need somebody to pick stuff up and put stuff down and carry a wheelchair, I'm your guy.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that the universe listened.
Yes.
And the person that was supposed to go on this flight that I went on, he got injured. And they called me the day before, and I canceled all my appointments and went to this. And I must tell you, it was one of the best things I ever done, because it's so touching. To say, you can see this is at the airport at Bradley's. So this out is 2 Lion Hall service member, and we have like the honor guards and the state trooper, and we escort them to the airport.
And them being soldiers that
So
were
them being, not, this is specific. So it's World War II, Korean, and Vietnam veterans.
Okay.
And the reason why it's those specific, because they didn't get a welcome home after their time of service.
Right.
Like when I served in Afghanistan, when I came home, they met us down in Greenwich. And it was maybe a mile-long escort back home.
Yeah.
Right.
They didn't get that. And not only didn't they gotten that, they also, was called name and stuff. So that's why we do this now for them.
Yes.
And a lot of them didn't get a chance, so you take them to the different monuments and
Yes,
things. And
yes.
I love that they get to see that they are being honored.
Yes, and that's the thing we got back a lot from it. That's what makes them. They said, you know what? A few of them tell me, like, now I could go in peace.
Oh.
So for like 40 years, they was wondering. Some of them was wondering what happened to their friend. If their friend, and just to see them find their friend's name on the wall, it was like a closure for them. So it's very touching and moving.
Yes.
See.
Oh, look at that.
And this gentleman, him and I connect really good. He was a Marine too.
Yeah.
We went to Paris Island together. His time was so he was sitting next to me on the bus. So we had a great conversation.
Nice.
So we had to took a picture with him. Yeah.
That's amazing. This has been such, look at that, even the,
Yeah. So it doesn't matter what time we get back. The bagpiper, they wait for us. It doesn't matter if it's 2 a.m. in the morning, and they welcome them home. So all of this was coming back. This was 1:30 in the morning, and the airport, the terminal was full with family members, and so this was coming home at 2:30 at night.
I find this picture very powerful.
Yes.
I find it brings tears to my eyes. Just seeing everyone and just that woman reaching out and saying thank you, and
this is
It's
how
very
you treat your
powerful.
veterans. This is how you treat
your veterans, and that's why I told them doesn't matter what I have going on, I'm on that team. So I'm on the team permanent now. So we going back down on the 28th.
Well, I have to say, we are happy that you're here in America.
Yes.
I'm glad you made it here. We thank you for your service.
Yes.
And your story is so impactful. We are so glad that you came and shared it with us today.
And I feel that you show the example of hope for those who may be able to see this and go, I could do that.
Yeah.
That is what I think is also powerful about you being here today. is about the perseverance, it's about the determination, the leadership turning into entrepreneurship, and the giving back has always been there. So thank you so much for sharing all of this with us.
And thank you for having me. I was so happy to be able to tell this story, and that's why I joined so many different organizations. I try to implement my story just so if one person could see it, if I could start from, always say I didn't start from the bottom, I start from inside the hole. If I could start from inside the hole and work my way up to where I'm at now, if I could, just one person could follow suit, then my job is done. So thank you guys for giving me this platform to tell my story.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
No
Thank you.
problem. We're
Thank
happy
you.
to have done it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome job.